Mike, at this stage, with what you've seen from Tyron Smith, are you optimistic that he'll be able to go this Sunday?
I've had a bunch of things going on this morning. I haven't had a chance to visit with him personally, but he'll go through the mock game today. The goal, as I stated on Wednesday, was for him to get 3 days of practicing, and that was kind of the threshold we want to get past. So if he goes tomorrow, we're hopeful that he'll go on Sunday.
How did it look so far, though?
Looks good. No, he felt good. I spoke to him right after practice. He felt good about his workload yesterday.
With another game coming so quickly after this, does that factor in at all, or is it just if you can go this Sunday, you go and we'll go from there?
We've had those conversations, but I think it's like anything. You can be too strategic when it comes to these. I just think when players are healthy, and especially Tyron, he's been doing this a long time. No one knows his body better than he does. So, and that's all part of the decision-making process.
The last couple of years of being around him, what were your impressions of Amari before you got here, and what have you learned about him since you've been here?
Well, you always respected Amari from when he came out. He's a prototype receiver that can he can play any position. He can play the speed game. His lateral quickness is. Him and Devontae Adams or Joe Horn are the guys that I think they're exceptional. His ability to at the line of scrimmage is top notch. Then he has the finishing speed. He has the size. He has the strength. So he has all the attributes you're looking for in a receiver.
He was talking going to camp about wanting to lose weight going into this year and emphasizing that part of his game. Can you talk about the transition from where he was last year to where he is now? Do you believe it's been beneficial?
I think two things. Number one, I think as players get more and more comfortable in their career, they find a better weight. Where they are, different different parts of their career, and I think he's probably recognized that. And also, I think we got to be realistic. The pandemic last year was that was my first experience being around him. So, but he's clearly lighter than he was last year, and I think it's helped him a bunch.
You looking at making a change at left guard this week?
Well, I'll just say this. Starting lineups, we'll deal with that, but both corners will play in the game.
Is that difficult just because of the crowd noise and now you
Well, that's part of that's a good point. That's part of the conversations. We talk about continuity in here a lot. But also you gotta recognize performance, and Connor McGovern's done some really good things, and Connor Williams has also done a lot of good things, but the penalties has been a challenge, and they're watching him. Frankly, it seems like he's being officiated a little tighter than you. Just he's had too many penalties.
Mike, when you say both Connors will play in the game, Connor McGovern will play wide receiver, tight end, center,
wide receiver,
fullback, whatever. But
Boy,
are you saying that you could use two guys at left guard?
We can, we can play as many different ways as possible. So.
Connor Williams reprised Connor McGovern's role as fullback and wide receiver.
You're asking me scheme questions. I really don't want to get into that. Thank you. Well, probably time to take a break here, right?
Next week comes the tragedy of losing Marcus and things like that. How have your strength coaches carried on his legacy, you think, and how important are those guys to your team?
Oh, they're extremely important. You look at your strength and conditioning staff, your trainers, and your equipment staff. They touch the football team more than anybody. So Marcus Paul had a very close relationship with a lot of our players. Was a big part of the direction of change that was brought here last year. So his presence is still felt. It's we have a daily GPS meeting. Harold Nash and Britt Bryan and I, and there's not too many days go by where Marcus's name isn't mentioned, and I'm sure Tuesday will be fresh on everybody's mind.
Understanding that day wasn't about you, but you're at the top of the organization. Was that one of the more difficult days you've gone through as a head coach, and knowing what to do, how do I interact, what do I do here, do I talk to them, do I let them go, just where did that stand, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I don't hope no one has to go through another day, a day like that. Yeah, that's I walked in the door that morning with Marcus, about 10 after 6, and we had checked in at the front desk, with our COVID protocol together, and he'd forgot his phone in his truck. So, and then it happened shortly after 7. So, it was a day of, it was just you trust your instincts, and it was very difficult. And so I think as far as decision making and what to do and how to do it, we just kept the focus of everybody, particularly firstly his family, and like I said, it was a very difficult day.
I guess in that situation when it's just, especially like that, where 40 minutes later you're dealing with something you had no idea. I mean, in some ways there's no right or wrong in that situation, right? You just have to react and let everyone kind of.
Well,
react.
I think so, and I think Britt Brown and Jim Maurer and just the way it was handled. I think everybody did everything they possibly could, and so it was. Yeah, decision-making wise, I think we did the best we could.
No, obviously playbook, but you had a similar situation somewhere else where another player passed away. How did you come to grips with that?
Yeah, no, that was very difficult. Back there in 2005, in Denver, in the locker room. So, those are experiences that you'll never forget. I mean, they definitely leave an impact on you and everybody involved. So I just think, like anything, you just stay true to what's the most important, part of that situation. It's the individual, and that's really all you can focus on at that moment.
Coaches and players are always compartmentalizing. I mean, that seems like the ultimate example of having to do that. I mean, having a game coming up so quickly and you wanting to honor someone fully, but could you really honor fully in that moment? And
well, I think the biggest thing is, you go from Tuesday to Thursday. It wasn't about the game. Everything involving Marcus was so much bigger than the game, and particularly the day of the game, Thanksgiving, and the emotions that were wrapped into that. And I think you saw just the way the game was played. I think our players came out there and with tremendous, energy and intent, and and then, it faded away from us. So, but yeah, it's it's an experience that will always be with me. So, and I hope I don't ever have to draw from that experience again.
will you recognize it in any way with the players next week, or you would just let everyone kind of?
Yeah, I think we should talk about that next week. If you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.